My father, whom I've admired all my life, is cheating on my mom. I'm a 24-year-old male who's recently found out that my father 52M has been having an affair with one of his high school girlfriends for almost a year now. Before I get to my dilemma, for those of you who might want to know a backstory, here it is. My father was born into a family with money. Not by any means a billionaire, but very comfortable at one point. One of the largest media houses in India early 1990s to 2000s. He's always been one of those parents who pushed their kid to the extreme and kept doing that to no end. That, in turn, made me quite accomplished and knowledgeable at a decently young age. I've fought and won legal battles worth a bit without lawyers, about to finish my chartered accountancy, played golf on the amateur tour amongst other things, and I owe it all to him. I grew up admiring him, frankly idolizing him, and it is hard for me to even look at him now that I know he's cheating on my mother. I was never close to my mother, in fact I hated her in my teens. She was one of those very strict, discipline-inducing mothers who was honestly suffocating to even be around. I think that's mostly cause she came from an extremely wealthy family of billionaires, something my father resents about her to this day. Not that she's wealthy, he is too, but because she spends her own money liberally on things she wants, while he's always been frugal. And as far as I'm concerned, she only had one kid, my younger brother. Rules, timings, restrictions, everything was different for us, in that she was way more liberal with him, still is, and as a teen, that festers resentment. Needless to say, my brother and I have never seen eye to eye, but due to our dad's influence, he too grew up quite smart and accomplished. Him and my mother on the other hand, they're quite close. He's a complete mama's boy. Now to the infidelity. Last year at one of my cousin's wedding, I saw my parents talking to a woman. My father was grinning extra hard, almost blushing, and my mother was playfully teasing him, so I went close to them. My mother introduced me to the woman. Let's call her Una. She told me that Una was my father's crush growing up, and I mean a massive one to a point where he fantasized about marrying this woman, and they were even involved for a bit before she moved away, and everything broke off thereafter between them. I didn't think much of it since my dad had dated his fair share back in college and high school, but never thought of him as someone who would even imagine cheating on my mother. In fact, my mother's always taken meeting his ex-girlfriends in stride and even invites them to their parties, and with genuinely no ulterior motives. She's always been nothing but hospitable towards them. Last month, I saw my dad getting a call from Una, yellow heart, angelic face, yes, with those exact emojis, and I was taken aback. I brushed it off in denial and went about my day. But then I got curious. He never had locks on his phone since I used to use it quite often to make calls for work, but one fine morning, he has a passcode on. Then when I asked him for it, he didn't give it to me and just dialed whom I wanted to speak with and took the phone back right after. That solidified my suspicions, and I started snooping around. I found emails and text messages all more nauseating than the previous one. The worst of all, I found a love letter from him to her on email wherein I think she must have tried to break up with him and he convinced her not to. I gag every time I replay the contents of all these exchanges between them, and more than that, I feel like screaming at him at the top of my lungs. I'm not a fan of my mother by any means, but she brought me up to very respectful towards women, and the foremost part of that is no infidelity. I hate what he's doing to our family. He's started drinking a lot, and we never have alcohol at home, so whenever they go out for parties, he'll drink and make an back out of us. When confronted, he will say we hate him for having fun or that we can't stand his happiness, etc. I've started smoking, drinking, not keeping well, and I hate what it's done to all of us. My brother and I talked about it because he found the same conversations and we can't speak to him, look at him, or do his work anymore. I've never felt this betrayed or enraged about anything or anyone in my entire life, and I feel like the only support structure I've ever had is gone. Simply put, I hate him. I don't know what to do. This Una woman has a family of her own. She's 53 from what I remember, and she has a daughter roughly my age. I'm thinking of tracing her down and talking to her. I just really don't know what to do, and I'm sick and tired of going home after 14-hour workdays and sitting with my father giving him a lowdown of business when I hate his face. Spending time with him was something I used to look forward to, now it's the most torturous obligation I can imagine. Please help me. I'll lose my mind. Do I speak to this woman's daughter? Do I confront my father? What the heck do I do now? Confront your father and tell him he has put a stain on your family. Tell him he disgusts you and he has disrespected your mother and your family. Then confronted Una and inform her that if she doesn't stay away from your father, you will inform her family.